first woman to get a company to go through an IPO in Washington in over 20 years.
I want to invest in women. Don't be too stubborn. I don't think the problem is with the FDA.
You played a role in each part of the game.
Now I feel I achieved the real goal of what I'm doing. I think you have unique talent that I really would hate if it went to waste into the traditional path. How drugs can impact fertility. You don't always understand why.
It's a relationship.
It's a dating process. I actually cried. I was so upset. Take a break, I guess. Like, I'm so crazy. Don't print. Use cups. Don't use paper cup. It's not taking the company public. It's the vision behind it.
Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of the AI-Based Business Show, the show where you best learn about business, entrepreneurship, tech. Today, I have with me a special guest in the biotech industry, Leen Kawas. We're going to speak about a lot of topics. Leen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Leen, going through some research, you're a pharmacist, researcher, CEO of a past CEO of a public company, investor. Who is Leen?
Yeah, so I had a very interesting, career trajectory. I started my career as a pharmacist. I graduated from University of Jordan with a pharmacy degree, and worked as a pharmacist for, in a clinical setup. But then I moved into the community pharmacy setup for 3 months, and then decided I wanted to do something different in my life. I wanted to work on not just bringing the medicine to patients from the pharmacy. I wanted to go further, which start working on research that potentially can lead to the development of new therapies. I've had that dream since I was, very, very young. I did some research and then took that research and created a company called M3 at the time that became Athira Pharma, now a publicly traded company. Started from one person, one cubicle, into this, company that at some point was over $1 billion in market cap, over 400 million raised. But what's most exciting for me, it's a company that is, I brought it with multiple late stage products that can hopefully have a positive impact on patients that are impacted by Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, schizophrenia, and other neurological indications. And when that happened, when I started seeing these therapies and the impact on the patient, I think that I felt like, okay, now I feel I achieved the real goal of what I'm doing. Yes, it was public, it was exciting. There's a lot of work that happens there. And then I left the company, and one of the larger investors in the company called me up, and I want to start a fund with you.
Wow.
And because I was already thinking about my next company, and I was like, what do you mean fund? No, I want to start a company. And he said, let's meet. I was in Seattle at the time. I actually moved to LA for the fund.
Okay.
And we talked. And one thing that convinced me is when he said, if you start a fund and you start investing in companies, regardless if they're private and public, you've done something really unique. And you have scientific understanding. You have the retail and the commercial side because you were a pharmacist. Plus, you understand finance. You took a company public. So you can help a lot of companies, help other entrepreneurs. And this is what we're doing right now at Propel Biopartners. We're a firm that invests in both private and public, and we try to add value, support companies and CEOs, founders, really achieve their mission and vision. And now it's not one indication, it's like plethora of stuff that we are supporting financially, and also more than just money. It's through advice and connections.
If we look at your career, you really took this advancement a huge way. You started being a pharmacist, just selling that medicine out of a small store. Then you went that further step into getting a medicine into existence, and then you took that company public, and now you're helping multiple companies from your position as an investor in a fund. So you played a role in each part of the game. I want to go back a step further and just ask, what's the biotech industry and what's the state of it today? Like, where are we in the biotech industry today? Where do we sit?
Yeah, thank you. So the biotech industry is it's a big umbrella, right? Where you could see a lot of innovation. The first thing you think about is therapeutics, right? Therapies that you're trying to advance, whether they are biologics, proteins, or antibodies, or cell therapies, or small molecules, traditional medicines. And what is exciting right now in biotech is the overlap between technology and biotechnology, which is creating a lot of new opportunities under our life science biotech industries. But it's the industry of advancing technologies that can help people live healthier and just better lives. This is how I define it. Some people go into a much more smaller definition or broader definition. It takes a lot of grit, it takes a lot of innovation, and it's a multidisciplinary, you need a lot of backgrounds to bring one therapy into the clinic and ultimately into the marketplace.
Right. Now, from there, you mentioned you started Athira Pharma, which you took public. I want to, if you could take us through the process of starting with the idea of that drug, going through all the clinical research, and up until it gets to the store. What's that process like?
So first of all, you have to optimize when you have a chemical entity or a therapeutic product or an idea of a therapeutic product, you go through a lot of iterations to optimize it to become the drug that you want to take forward into clinical development. So you start with research and discovery. Then after you identify a lead product, you move into development, which has both non-clinical and clinical. There has been a lot of advancements. A lot of the people think only innovation in the discovery and identifying new targets, new drug, but it's more than that. It's how you run your testing in animals. It's how you run your clinical trials. Now, after clinical trials, typically there are different regulatory strategies. Traditionally, it's 3 phases of clinical testing in humans. Then the FDA or the EMA, the regulators in Europe, the major regulators, approve it and it gets into patients. But there's so much, I think successful companies, they overlap this scientific strategy and clinical development strategy from day one, thinking about the customer, commercialization, which is very important. I think a lot of people think you're a scientist. No, you have to think about your end game, right? The patient. So the patient, how you optimize your product should cater to a specific need in the market. And every company I advise, start thinking very early on about your payers, your patients, how you want to optimize your product. And that's also a very, a process that has, pricing is and reimbursement can be thought of as like, oh, it's very hard to overcome. But if you think about it very early on and you engage with the payers and the reimbursement ecosystem early on throughout your development, then probably those are the most successful products because they cater to the specific need. They have accomplished what is needed for reimbursement and for coverage for products. And then gets to the market, right? Then you start marketing it in the pharmacies. Depends. If it's a product that the patients can influence the decision, then it's patient-focused commercialization strategy. But a lot of it is focused on physicians and could be specialized. Like if you're working with neurologists, then it will be very focused on neurologists. If it's a broader indication, you can go to the primary care providers. And there are so many commercialization strategies, and smart entrepreneurs and founders, they think about it very early on, because do you want innovation at every step from discovery to commercialization?
Because a way to think about it is, if I'm an investor, I'm giving this funding for you to continue your research and continue developing this medicine. As an investor, I'm expecting a type of return. So the earlier you think about what is it going to look, who's your target customer, the earlier you could formulate your medicine or your drug to target these specific people. You started at Athira Pharma. Where did the idea come from of that medicine? What was your research process like? If we go back to your early days, let's say I'm a student, I'm finishing my PhD, I'm doing that research in the lab, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to take the regular path of either being a professor or work in a lab. I want to take that further. where do you start? How do I start? Like, where was your creation moment of, okay, I'm going to start this company and this is going to be my target? And where were the challenges you faced along the way?
So I have to admit, like I grew up in Jordan. Entrepreneurship is was not at that point was not a very common, term.
Right.
And as a lot of the people I knew, I had an Excel sheet when I graduate, what would I'll do, what type of job I will do, when will I get married, have
Mhm.
children, all of that, right? I even had a job lined up, but Dr. Joe Harding, who I worked with, he basically told me when I was ready to transition into University of Pittsburgh, he's like, I think you have unique talent that I really would hate if went to waste into the traditional,
Yes.
path. So why don't you try this out with me and start a company and see where it goes? And I thought, okay, like maybe this is a year that I could like discover what I actually want, take a break, I guess. But it was like one of the years that I worked like crazy. Like I think people don't there's a lot of romantic idea and dreamy idea of the entrepreneurial journey, but it's hard. So I was like,
Yes.
okay, this is dumb. Like this is now I'm doing this. You have to become a lawyer. You have to become a finance CFO. You have to become like you're a scientist, drug developer, clinician. Like you wear so many hats. You also clean up the office, like
Yes.
whatever lab, everything. So I actually really appreciate that he introduced me to the entrepreneurship journey, and I believed in the technology. Of course, this was the point where you needed to optimize. I discovered 1017 phosgonimeton, which is now the lead product, and several other products because I created like a research discovery engine. And from there, you have to be very. One thing also transition from a researcher mindset into a company industry mindset. With research, academia can go into like so many different paths. But when
Right.
you're in a company, one thing big advice for any scientist that is considering to become an entrepreneur or anyone who is going into like the entrepreneurial journey, typically, I know we're very innovative, we're excited, we have a lot of energy, but to be really successful, focus on what's most important for your company, the milestone that will create the most value, and all hand on deck, right? Like the capital should support that milestone, people should be working on that milestone, uh, and have a very clear critical path and not just like, okay, I'm going to try this today, I'm going to do this, and maybe this would work. And make sure that you are very intentional in your plan. Like you put together an advisory team, use them for, knowledge and wisdom. But at the end of the day, you need to make a decision and a plan that is very clear how you create value. And don't be too stubborn with this plan. Like I want to be very clear because you're going to face things that you didn't anticipate. So make sure that you're also adaptable as well.
Put a North Star for the whole team to follow and create this milestone that gets you to that North Star you want to get to in 4, 5, 6, whatever years you have planned for.
Exactly. Exactly.
You took the company public. I don't think a lot of people know what it feels like to take a company public or what's the process like. Like, what do you have to share there? Like, what's the moment you're like, wow, I'm doing this? What were your challenges? What is the process like in taking a company public and ringing the bell?
Uh, it's high conviction in what you're doing, uh, organization, and putting all the group together. I think we were one of the companies that had the fastest timeline to go public.
Right.
Because I talked with you put together your banking syndicate, okay, and make sure that you like the lead banker on your lead bank, right?
Right.
There's the
It-
if you go into any S1, there's like 3 to 5 banks that are typically listed. The one that you're marrying is the one that is listed first. Okay. I had Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs both were fighting to take us public, but I picked Goldman Sachs and it was the lead banker on that team. And it's like, because you're like in very close relationship for months, for 3 to 6 months. So make sure you like that person. And then pick a good law firm, that also is nimble, if that makes sense. Like, these can get really expensive. And if it didn't go through, you're going to be spending a lot of money. So pick a good law firm. There's always optimization on how you could do these things. Pick a law firm that is nimble, but also pick a law firm that knows how to work with the law firm of the underwriters.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And then it's a process. You write the S1, you have all of the bankers, you're telling your story, your vision. There's the finance part. I had a Gantt chart, who's doing what, when are we going to finish it, what are we going to do? You go talk to hundreds of investors. And then, that the day that you file, you have a full day, you're talking to investors, and you're inviting them to your dream and mission and vision, right? So that's I think what excited me, it's not that I took a company public, okay? It's a process, right? You go through it. That's not the magic. The magic is you got the company to a point that you can truly expand and advance the technology. That was the exciting part. And I had multiple programs, late stage clinical development. So I think that this is very important also for investors, that they know that it's not taking the company public, it's the vision behind it. If there's a lot of companies that are just, the target is the IPO, for me, it was much bigger.
Yeah, I mean, and especially in what you're doing, you're getting this drug, this medicine out for patients, and going public helps you in that mission. The idea that you were able to take this thing from research, from being in the lab, from working 12 hours in the lab and doing your research and doing these experiments and changing your chemical compositions up until you started this business, you took the financials, the legal part of it, and you're taking it public and getting this money in for a lot of people to share that vision and advance it is just amazing, and just you saw it come to life.
Exactly.
I want to. You spoke about the process of companies going of drugs going from research to commercialization and being available for wide use, and we know the FDA takes care of over that. Do you see any problems in the way this happens? How can we improve that way the drug goes from zero up to it being in the hands of people?
There's so much that can be done. Okay, and that's something that me and my partner, Shwekwa, she worked with me for 7 years. She led all of the discovery, and clinical strategies and clinical development at Athira. So this is we're so passionate, right? We start talking about the clinical development and the regulatory strategy. And this is where I see a lot of technological use of technologies that can really help us there. A lot of people, I would say the industry, I don't think the problem is with the FDA. It's more the mindset of the industry that we're trying to revolutionize or modernize, if that makes sense. There's a lot of limitations on how people think about advancing their clinical strategies, because they're oh, I'm just going to do it like company A or company B, versus let me look at my product. Let me look at the patients that I'm trying to address. Let me look at what is the biggest issue or need that these patients have, and try to design a clinical development strategy that clearly addresses this, specific to my technology, and gets it, the fastest way possible to patients. I remember at Athira, I had Alzheimer's patients in my phase 1. A lot of people, including the board, were why are you including patients? It's high risk to include patients in a phase 1. It's just safety and exposure, PK exposure, how much drug can we give? What is the safety? And I said, no, this makes the most sense for me, because I want to know if the drug is doing something early on in the patient population to justify additional investments moving forward. So everyone thought the FDA would say, no, we go to the FDA, and the FDA is like, yeah, that makes sense. You have a very logical strategy. So I think, and I had a few interactions with the FDA where the message was, we are craving innovation from sponsors, from the pharma industry. And yeah, I think there's a lot of space, and we're trying to help companies also think outside of the box.
So the idea, what you're getting at is it's not necessarily the FDA's, the problem isn't necessarily with the FDA, it's with the mindset of people in the industry that don't want to innovate or think outside of the box.
Exactly. So they say there is a regulatory risk.
Okay.
So it's if I just do what others done successfully, then it removes that risk. But it actually adds additional risk if you're just developing, if it's the same exact mechanism of action, yeah, makes sense.
Right.
But if it's a new approach that could address the disease in a different way, why not try and be innovative in your clinical strategy and design? Yeah, but of course, you know, I worked with different groups. I didn't work with everyone in the FDA.
Right.
But overall, everyone I worked with, including Ron Farkas, who's on my operational advisory team at Propel, he worked for, I don't know, 15 years or more in the FDA. And he is one of the most pragmatic people I know. Like, you would expect someone who worked that long at the FDA to have like more rigid.
Right.
But no, he's very pragmatic. He's actually very scientifically oriented and has a very clear thought on how drugs should be tested in a clinical setup.
Okay. I'm asking the question because I heard Balaji, one of the, he was a CTO of Coinbase, famous investor, and he speaks about this idea of having a decentralized FDA dependent on crypto instead of having this centralized FDA and taking all these processes. And this is why I was curious to hear your opinion about it and what you think about the idea of FDA being a roadblock instead of it being an advancement. And I think we made it clear that we need innovation on both sides of the FDA and on the players or companies in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Through Propel BioPartners, you're on the board of Inherent Biosciences. What is Inherent from a business standpoint and from a science standpoint?
So Inherent is a commercial stage company. They are working on a pipeline of diagnostic technology that looks at the epigenetics of the humans. And epigenetics is the signature of our that sits on top of our DNA, right? We're all born with our genes. We're all born with our specific DNA sequence. There are some like mutations that can happen,
Right.
but the epigenetics is the dynamic signature on top of that, the DNA and our it could be methylation, it could be different ways of epigenetic changes. But what's have been known recently is epigenetic, the way that our epigenetic is being modulated can impact health, can impact disease state, can impact fertility, can impact aging. And what Inherent is initially focused on is infertility. They're trying to revolutionize infertility. I think a lot of people, when they think about infertility, they think about the female partner. Right. But there is 30% of infertility goes unexplained. And if you look at the traditional sperm testing for males, it's typically motility, size, speed, and those don't predict. They don't. It's not. They do not correlate. Despite what people think, it doesn't like correlate with success of pregnancy. Versus they have built a lot of evidence to show that specific epigenetic signature can have a very negative impact on success in pregnancy, and they're trying to predict that and help people. And it's amazing, right? That's another thing. Like I don't know if you know anyone, but I have friends who've been impacted by infertility. Wow. And it's so hard, right? So yes. Like having a technology that could inform. Thankfully now they have children, but like if they had this technology to inform their fertility journey, they would have like avoided a lot of pain, costs, and time. So that's why I'm excited about Inherent. This is the first product but they have so many other products that are in the pipeline as
Maybe
well.
maybe it could be something where when people decide to get married, we could test do some tests there using that product, predict if they're fertile or not, and try to solve the problem that early in the marriage stage
Exactly. I love
before
it.
we get there and have this problem.
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
love the
because
product
this is
too.
I love how you said it because it is something that you can change. Like if you
Right.
have an epigenetic signature that is unhealthy and doesn't help you with pregnancy, you actually can do lifestyle modification to help improve on that. I love that.
Right.
Yes.
No, yes. So you start at the beginning of marriage, you do lifestyle changes within 2, 3, 4 years. Inside your marriage, you're able to have children and kids. It's amazing.
Exactly.
Going from there, there's another company you're on the board of, which is P Phone Biosciences. Did I say?
Persephone. Yes.
Okay,
Persephone.
Persephone. Again, what is it? And I'm really interested to hear the scientific explanation because whenever you talk about them and we could see the impact they solve, it just blows my mind. So I want to know what is it on the science part, what it does, and then on the business part.
Yeah, Persephone is a company, a San Diego company that is working again on a platform of products that can redefine the gut microbiome for humans. And why I like Persephone, because they are scientifically based. They have actually captured a lot of data. They have a baseline, like a database that describes the differences in our gut microbiome in different disease stage, cancer, other diseases, healthy humans,
Right.
babies. Okay. And the first product that they're working on, they've actually had a large clinical trial to look at the gut microbiome for babies that were born, with a C-section or normal delivery, breastfeeding, formula fed, to look at the architecture of their gut microbiome, not just the bacteria type, like what other things that the bacteria can also impact. And they are now they're developing baby probiotics that is based on science,
Wow.
that is intentional on like, how can we recover the baby biome, right? And give that, because there's nothing. I'm a mother. I tried to find basically probiotic that I could trust. I couldn't find, but this is scientifically based and backed up. And they're developing specific synthetic strains that can be developed to babies. And guess what? This will lead. This will give so much flexibility for mothers, right? Like if for some medical reason you cannot breastfeed, you can still make up for it with this product,
Right.
which gives significant flexibility for. And that's first product. They have a partnership with J&J to study the microbiome for colon cancer patients. That a lot of products that can also come out of that to help increase the sensitivity for treatment for colon cancer, prevent relapse, and really help with the overall health of patients that are suffering from this type of cancer, but other cancers moving forward with this company.
Right. And I love the idea here. David Friedberg, one of the famous investors in that, has the production board. One of their products is SuperGut, which targets the microbiome too. And from there, I got some idea about it. And I actually tried their product, stopped it after a while. But it's just the idea that we could really change the enzymes and the microbiome of ourselves to improve it and have a better feeling just ourselves, whether at a late stage or as a baby where you're starting and targeting, is just, again, something really amazing that technology could really advance humans and human health in a major impactful way. You're part of you founded or co-founded Propel Biopartners. Talk to me more about that. What companies are you looking at? What's your criteria when you look at a company? What's your thesis? And what's the thesis of the fund? How do you do due diligence? Because we especially in that space, in the tech health space, in the biotech space, we could see a lot of products that aren't mature, that aren't there, that there's a lot of hidden truth is about them. So how do you unpack that in when a founder approaches you to get funding? What's your criteria in looking at it? What's your thesis? And how do you unpack the product or what they're working on?
Yeah, great question, Ahmed. So at Propel Biopartner, we are looking for a combination of transformative technology and great teams. We have built a team, between me and my partners, as well as our operational advisory team. We bring like over 100 years of experience in drug development and pharmaceutical industry experience. And when we look at a company, we really look for, we unpack everything, right? The first meeting is really looking at how the management or the founder is able to address questions. And then we start the due diligence journey, right? We start asking, first we have to get like conviction in the science. So we ask a lot of questions about the product, the data that validated the product, what are their plans moving forward? Because we want to make sure that when you're investing in someone, that they don't just understand the product today, they understand their plans and their product, 5-10 years down the road. And if they don't understand it, we have confidence that they're going to be able to get the right expertise to help them at that stage. We don't invest in ideas. Like we got a lot of companies that come with really big names behind it that is very, very early stage. It's still a dream. It's still a vision. In this market condition, we are only focused on companies that have real products that we can, understand and have real data from it. We're focused on later stage from a preclinical, like products that are approaching the clinical, like they're either at the late stage development in non-clinical setup or early stage clinical development. We invest in both private and public, and that's the exciting thing for us, because when you invest in both sides, you're gonna have a really holistic view of the markets, the technology. You get insights from the private companies that could support your public strategy and vice versa.
Right.
So yeah, that's what we look for. And we look to add more than just capital, to support and advice and a whole network that can support the company.
So you could say you're more of hands-on investors instead of just investing and taking a step back.
Yeah, we try to be supportive. We try to be, but we don't. The one thing that we tell the companies that we are considering to invest in or we already invested in, we're giving you our point of view. We need to feel that you take the feedback, and come back with a decision that you believe in, and not just follow what we're saying. So we're hands-on, but we also have a trust in the capabilities of the people that we are investing in to make the right decision, because evaluation of the management is a big part of it, right? During the due diligence process, it's a dating process where you can also see how they handle challenging questions, how they handle feedback, how transparent they are, and are they like people you want to work with?
I think every investor kind of says that, like it's a relationship. You're putting your money in that company and you're working with them for up until they go public, probably. If you don't sell your shares, you're staying with them for probably 5, 6, 7, 10 years. And it's a process of calls. Sometimes the founder needs help. He's going to call you as an investor, and he has to feel that you're already there to support them, and you want to feel that you could work with that founder. What are the challenges you see? You were a founder and now an investor. What are challenges you see from an investor point of view that you didn't see as a founder?
Challenges as I see right now in the companies, or challenges
or
that I'm experiencing right now?
that you're experiencing like now as an investor that you didn't experience as a founder.
I mean, the one thing I want to tell all the founders out there now that I'm an investor, investors get a lot of deals, like crazy amount of deals. Like I cannot believe, like anyone who knows you're an investor, you're going to get a deal from that person, and not a bad way. Like that's great. We have a great deal flow, but like something for the founders and entrepreneurs is like when an investor says no, I would say 99% of the time, it's not the technology and it's not you. It's just the fit. If it's something that fits their strategy, if it's something that, if they're working on other deals, it means that their bandwidth is completely gone into like other deals. So make sure that when an investor says we're passing, that I always was very pleasant when I was a founder, CEO of a company. But it's, we get, the deal flow is insane, and not having enough capacity to look at everything. But the thing is that the eye opener for me is like, now that I've been on the other side, and when you hear a no, you don't always understand why. Just understand a lot of the time it's not from you. Go back, try to get feedback, quick feedback from them, address the feedback if you think it's a good thing for your company, and then come back. And hopefully when they have time and you're at the right moment, the magic happens.
An example of that, the Airbnb founders, they heard a lot of no's from a lot of investors, and they were just hearing a no after no, but they kept working on their product, advancing it up until they get a yes, and they're Airbnb right now. You have a lot of writings. You write about a lot of different topics. Two topics you spoke about were women in biotech and accelerating their leadership positions, and environment. Let's start with environment. You looked at innovation in advancing the environment and where the environment is sitting right now in the world in different aspects. Are individual approaches at home enough to solve the environmental problems in the world, or should we take a bigger level or a bigger approach towards that problem?
I mean, I don't understand why someone that is not environmental in their home, they don't take it everywhere, right? So when I was at Athira, at least when I left, like we were almost paperless, right? I was like, if I see paper that is printed, I would be like, why? Like, explain to me why. Like, you have computers, you have way if you want, you have tablets if you need to take notes. So like these small things, right? Because I don't, I'm very, I am very protective of papers. Like that was my mission. Okay. Scientists, they love reading and like annotating the papers, and then they print the same paper 10 times because they don't remember where they put it the first time. Lawyers, they love printing and like writing finance, and I'm like, no, like try, if you don't push yourself in everything.
You have an iPad and a pen, and you could write everything on there.
Exactly, like that's not an excuse, right? Like no, like annotate and save it electronically, because at least you can find it, right?
Yes.
So I was like and still like I'm so crazy about like don't print, don't use cups, don't use paper cup. And so it's small things. Even in your, like if you're able to, why not be green as much as possible, right? The coffee machines, the snacks that you get to your company, the furniture, like there's so much that companies, and one thing that I have to make a comment on, and there are some industries that are not going to be as quick to being green as other industries, but if you are in an industry that you can have that do it right. Don't say like it's not, we still have these other industries, we still have some key industries that are not going to get green in the near term future, and we cannot, the rest of the world and industries, we cannot be okay with it, if that makes sense. We have to be like ahead of time. Manufacturing, for life sciences is making leaps in being green. Marketing, right? Marketing, come on, like be efficient in the way that you market things. So I think if you do it at home, if you do it at your children's school, if you do it when you go out with your friends, if you do it when you're on your own, and you do it where you work, you kind of covered then you have a real impact.
Okay. Jumping from there, you're a woman that took a company public, and it was your first woman to get a company to go through an IPO in Washington in over 20 years, which is huge. A lot of women are going to look at that and are aspired by you and inspired by you, what advice would you give them to advance their career and go through that ceiling of leadership?
Yeah, I mean, that was a shocking statistics
Okay.
for me, especially when you live in Seattle and like it's a very progressive city. And then it's like, how? Like that was like a very shocking reality for me. I actually cried. I have a daughter and I'm like, I was so upset. I was like, I cannot believe we are still here, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I will tell people what I did, and it's not all right. It's not all like I did, and I'm growing and I'm learning still as a leader, as a human being, as a woman. Um, I think that know yourself, keep going. The more successful you are, the more like pushback you're gonna get because being a woman from the Middle East, being a Muslim woman, being you are kind of like different than what the phenotypical or how a successful person typically looks like. Okay.
Yes.
Uh I was very proud of who I am. You know, I actually did Ramadan public. I was like, I
Okay.
still next week is Ramadan. I love it's my favorite month.
Yes.
And I didn't force it on anyone, but I wanted to acknowledge that I am different and my journey is different. And I got a lot of people like throughout, like still I get these comments and I remind myself that it's not me. You know, when someone is making a comment about anything that is about me, it's their baggage, right? I know who I
Yes.
am. I know what I'm
Yes.
capable of. And it's gonna be a harder path for a woman. But remember this, like if you keep pushing and keep doing what you believe in, you'll get and you're gonna face roadblocks. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, you're gonna face roadblocks, period. For a woman, it's a
A
much
level,
harder
yes, it's a level
elevated.
higher.
It's elevated. It's not just a level higher, it's levels higher. uh, but keep going. Believe in yourself. Believe in what you're doing. Find good people. You're gonna always find people that don't relate to the way that you look. They don't relate to your experiences. They don't relate with your background. But I think everyone relates with talent, everyone relates with resilience, everyone relates with innovation.
That's
So
true.
keep
I
going.
love that. Yes, I love that. I'm coming to my last couple of questions. There are three questions, and they're meant to be more fun questions. Uh, if you didn't go ahead and take that position in co-founding a fund, what would you have built next? Or if today you were to leave the fund, what would you build?
So let's put that because a lot of people are like, you moved to, are you going to start? I'm not starting any company soon. I love what I'm doing. I can't believe I'm here. At the beginning, it was like a shift, but I love what I'm doing right now. Like the impact that you could have in the position that I'm in right now, and the fact that I'm partnered with Richard Kane,
Right.
founder of two companies that today are over 100 billion under management. It's just like for me, that the investment knowledge that he brings, and a person that I tremendously respect, Shui Hua, she is the only person that puts fear in my heart because she is so like a
Sharp and
go-getter. She gets
awesome.
things
Right.
done on it. Like she doesn't accept any like mediocrity, which I love. That's why I love working with her. Uh, I don't think I'm like I just see Propel in my future, if that makes sense, because the
Okay.
impact is amazing. I want to invest in women. I want to invest in people with different backgrounds. I want to help entrepreneurs, regardless of what I want to have a big impact on our industry. But if I had a company that I was thinking about, I was actually like putting it together. Maybe at some point I'll find the right talent to take that technology and grow it into something. I actually talked to a couple of people, but still, like when you're running a fund and you're starting and all of that, it takes a lot of.
It's a lot.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I founded a company. I founded a fund, and within the fund, I'm just like in the midst of an amazing entrepreneurial energy and
Okay.
journey. So.
Where do you see biotech or the industry in the next 10 years?
Uh, I think now we are at a moment where technology, AI, is gonna be the biggest. propeller of our industry.
Okay, so you believe AI will integrate with science to a huge factor?
It's already, I mean, both Inherent and Persephone and other companies that we're looking or invested in, they're using AI. Because I think AI is going to enable the industry. Biology and drug development is rich in data.
Right.
And a lot of the times, we're not able to take advantage of all of the levels of the information that we have because it gets overwhelming. But with AI, you can integrate, for example, like Persephone, it's a multi-omics. They look at proteomics, they look at metabolomics, they look at the microbiome, they look at gene, like DNA, RNA, everything. They look at proteins, and they put out. This is the AI model that they have developed is what describes a product that will lead to efficacy. Okay, and I do think because you're using more data to make that decision, you're going to have better success rates moving forward. Clinical development, oh my God, clinical development can benefit so much from AI. Like, how can we define the control groups? How do we define global changes that we see in patients? So I do think that is going to be a big, big thing. The personalized medicine is going to be also advanced because of our ability to use machine learning, deep learning, in making personalized decision on what type of treatment plan a patient might have. And I think the technologies that are in the earlier stages of cell therapy in general, which again, these type of like it all builds, like cell therapy benefits from personalized medicine benefits from AI and ability to handle large
data sets
and make informed decision. Also, AI will take a lot of the bias that human has. So I'm looking forward to the moment where these junctures where there's human bias that can be accelerated, and this bias is removed completely. From the regulatory point of view, back to the FDA, I think the FDA can also benefit from this advancement in this technology.
I love that. I can't wait to see what happens to personalization in medicine and how big companies tackle that and how the manufacturing of that actually is going to happen. So this is something that's going to be exciting. Last question. We're both from the MENA region. Where do you see the MENA region playing a role in this whole biotech industry? Are we advancing? Are we still in our place? Are we going to advance?
I do think there is a big, big opportunity for the MENA region to grow in the biotech life science industry. I've visited a few times. I've visited Dubai and Abu Dhabi for different conferences. I think there's a significant appetite and openness that we want to be involved. We want to be part of the innovation. There's a lot of institutes there that are taking that on. And I am committed to that area. I think we have a lot of successful people, including you, Ahmed, that are from that area, and they will have an impact on the outcome there. I wouldn't say we're behind, but I think now there's the right mindset to take innovation forward. Also, the geography that we have, which I think it's part of the non-ending conflict that we have in that. Yes. But I think it's just, I think, for me, I think the future is very exciting for the MENA region, for the biotech. There's work, but it's exciting.
Leen, I loved the episode. I've taken amount of knowledge from you, and I think I could go into much more, and I could spend like hours and hours interviewing you and getting to know the details more and more. So I appreciate all the knowledge you've shared, and thank you for being here. And where could people follow more of what you're doing, see more of your thoughts? Where could people follow you? Any last words you want to give out?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. I post a lot on Twitter, so embrace yourself. And then on LinkedIn, if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm very responsive. I understand the journey of the entrepreneur. And even if I don't make an investment in a company, I just want to tell everyone that has reached out to us for an investment, we do look at all the material, and it's as hard for us to say no, probably harder to say no than yes for an investment. And I'm just like a fellow, founder, entrepreneur, whether it's Athira or Propel, and I know the struggles. And if you are successful on enduring and persevering through the low moments, you're going to be very successful.
Yeah. One thing on the no, I think investors when they say no, it's harder because if this company that they said no becomes a unicorn or achieves something later on, it's gonna be guilt on them. So every no they're saying it's like guilt. So this is why when they still no, an investor really feels bad about saying no because it might be a lost potential that they might have in investing in a great company.
I mean, I didn't think about it in this way. Now it's gonna typically I'm like, I know the pain. I
Right.
know what the person on the other side is going through. So it's very, very hard. Like for me, when I know like how hard, especially like if they have a lot of the things, but they're
Yeah.
missing like key things that we cannot. So for me, I think I know the pain. A no is not a no. A no is just not now.
Yes. No,
Mhm.
thank you again. Thank you again, Liam. I really appreciate it.